What's up, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and once again, it's my continuing mission to bring you reviews that aren't 2 minutes long or filled with sponsored bullcrap. And It Takes Two is the title we're going to talk about today. It Takes Two is a story about two parents getting a divorce that somehow turn into dolls, and you have to work together in platform cooperative environments so you can, well, yeah. We all know divorce stories are like tattoo stories. No one ever has an interesting one, but the developer of A Way Out, who made this game, promised us that each and every moment in the title would be unique, that you would never be doing the exact same thing at the same time. A platform co-op in nature and requiring that you work together throughout the entirety and looks a bit like a modern day cartoon. Sign me up. It Takes Two is out Thursday, the 25th. As always, if you like the video, maybe subscribe. And one little disclaimer, no, the game in no way, shape, or form makes you sit down and cry into your buttermilk as it deals with divorce at every single moment. And I'm sure somebody's complaining about that. That kind of shit is inevitable as mothers finding single socks all over a teen boy's room while the dad just nods on in mysterious judgment. I'm going to tell you right now, that isn't here. They don't treat it as a poignant moment as much as they treat it as a means to get you to play the game in co-op. You're two dolls that some kid black magicked into life by crying on it. Get over it. Graphics are up first. Speaking of black magic, It Takes Two looks majestic. It's understanding that a game can look a bit like a Pixar movie as well as some old Disney flick and still work. That to me shows the incredible power in modern day gaming. It's this work on the mocap and the animation when the main characters find out that they're lumps of material that would only be roughly called dolls, and Cody's first realization he's gained a bit of weight around the midsection as a doll that works so well. It's the animation from rails sliding across electrical wires to holding them together as the current passes through you to continually progressing into amazing looking moments like the layers of forest animals. But for me, probably the best part of the game is how well this thing runs while it's looking so good. It doesn't matter if you're online or if you're in split screen co-op, the game almost never has a moment where it's not a steady frame rate, regardless of what goes on in the title. Like, it exhibits this magical warmth at any one time, and you're always expecting a stutter, and it never really happens, whether you're running around a backyard's massive tree or floating on a garbage can lid through nasty, undescribable locations. Few games to me capture that moment where animation, their look, and just the purely imaginative stance of a child ends up coming through in a game from start to finish. It Takes Two does that. And one special kudo has to be to the way the characters look on screen and their overall identity, from the Antonio Banderas love book to outrageous pissy hornets to one of my favorites in this game, which are the squirrels that you find inhabiting the backyard tree. They are phenomenal. Split screen's fantastic, and while you can and will be able to do co-op online, that choice of split screen vertical adds something to the game in a feeling of companionship that I want to point out. It really does help to actually be able to see what the other person is doing, and that was actually the choice that I took when playing the game. And speaking of choices, that's the way games work, and there's a choice here in the music I want to talk about because it is a bit different. Music, for me, It Takes Two has this part good idea, part bad idea, and I'm not really sure how everybody's going to treat it. It's very lean, it's downright not there in a number of places, and that works incredibly well to really make you feel like you're within the environments. It solidifies all of the sound envelopes that you end up playing in, and everything feels like this canopy of sound around you. That works, and when you're in the moment, it works to add a completely different feel to the game. However, the music itself, when it plays, it does not. There's exciting moments, and there's a tense bit of music here and a tense bit of music there, or something a little bit generic for my tastes when it comes to some of the epic moments, but it never ends up really nailing it. It never ends up going that next step like I expected. Additionally, this is a choice. I want to make sure that's clear. It might be a better choice than just having really epic music because we're going to talk about sound. Now, due to the variability and the sheer dynamics in the consistently piped in gameplay elements, the sound is front and center, and then it's to your right, and then it's to your left, and all about you, and then tightened down as a character slips through a fan set on character killing hesitant instead of just completely off. I cannot believe how good the sound is in the game. It is brilliant. In one scene, you may slide through 9 switches and turning directions with audio changes and cues and echo and reverb and occlusion, even bits of height data as you slip and slide across the game's different locations, with that camera consistently keeping up with the action, strangely enough, something I wasn't expecting. It's an auditory feast, as the characters shoot explosive honey on Gears of War Hornets, and then the other lights their wood stick match rocket launcher on fire and blows up. There's this cacophony of explosions and dying pissy hornet sounds that is fantastic. Then you roll out into the branches of that massive backyard tree I've talked about, like a childhood fantasy in graphical form, the wind blowing around you as you take a long lost paper airplane and you send it soaring towards an open window in the house. By the way, an open window I could never hit. I don't even know if you can. All all of the moments there are great. Even the stretch of the rope as you swing from different locations consistently changes it up. It's nostalgia and excellence, like the developers had sliders for both and then rewrote the numbers that went 1 to 10 and just scribbled, "Yeah," on the top of it. A little less, yeah, but still very good is the voice. This works well with May and Cody and their daughter and some of the side characters that you actually meeting. As I stated first, the squirrels is most likely, this is going to be something talked about a lot. I love them in this game. When that character slides open the door inside of the tree, and the first time he talked, the people I was playing with, we all ended up laughing. It was just a perfect pitch. May and Cody bitch back and forth, and like it or not, I found myself actually enjoying the game because I did not enjoy them. Let me explain. Mary Jane in the original Spider-Man game, I hated her. I tried to let the terrorists in the bank kill her like 11 times, just leaving her alone, and sadly, they couldn't end up assassinating her. That doesn't mean she was actually poorly acted, though I did find her somewhat poorly written in that game. It's an example of a character that can be voiced incredibly well, and yet you hate them as a character even though. In fact, some of the strongest deliveries in games are that. And May is smack dab in the middle of that, at least half of the game. That chick hasn't seen anything good she couldn't squat and take a shit on in her life, which is annoying, yes, but it also makes you think, man, is Cody that much of a jackass in the real world that May's mostly solid responses that sound a little bit like William Shatner when he's thanking a fan are called for? That is the engagement. I'm okay with it. It works and actually ends up offering a little bit of the side flair to the story that the story itself doesn't have to hammer into you. To me, that was cool and showed a bit more subtlety than I think a lot of people will probably see from it. Speaking of subtlety, let's begin gameplay and a bit about the story. A story that's not so subtle when it starts. It's two characters getting a divorce, their daughter's magic tears, a creepy-ass peeping Tom pair of talking binoculars, and trash can-wielding murder hornets all trying to kill you. May and Cody are taken control of by the two players who can play in split-screen co-op on the same system or use that Buddy Pass system online, which only requires one of the people to own the game. What I liked here is the story basically got you into the cusp of the game and then took a step back and delivered it not only with the characters actually talking back and forth, but talking around it as well. When it comes to the story, though, it's not necessarily subtle. I'm queued up for someone bitching about the game not handling divorce right or some other way in which they can make themselves a part of the show versus what the game actually is. I get it. You might pause Mario to make sure that the Princess Peach is being treated with the proper fragility that you think she requires. But I don't think this game actually requires you to do that. It offers an into a game that basically states every single location will have you doing something different on a different situation with different tools and using different teamwork to do so. From throwing nails into moving platforms so another person can use their hammer claw to swing across them, working together to move a cup over to a single section so someone can run across it to get to their spot, or beating the crap out of somebody as a pinball. Each is delightful. They're nonsensical, but somehow they still are instinctual, and their use of co-op play and the mechanics feels natural every single time. Now, as May and Cody, you're always trying to get things together, try to find new items, or in some way have inspired moments where you become items for the other to use to get past an obstacle. It's the game's imaginative misuse of the characters where I actually think it's at its best. At that moment when you find that squirrels can also be FBI-style agents holding the humans captive for once, that helps the story, but it's the gameplay getting to that through and through that never really does repeat that helps it so much. Both characters have the ability to jump and then body slam items as well as dash. Control is pretty much pitch perfect. Throughout the entire game, whether online, on the same system, or with somebody else, I never once felt like the controls let me down. Something I can't say about a lot of other games. And it's those bosses also at the end of each set piece that I really did like. One has you dodging just huge saw blades as it cuts a slab of wood into pieces under you and has you looking out for dangers that each of the items' unique parts have made in the game world as you're trying to fight them. Now, the only issue that I felt the game actually had was that one character was always really the initiator and the other the reactor. This does seem to happen a great deal, with Cody being, for the most part, always the one doing the first thing or the active thing, and May being the reactive character or utilizing what Cody does. I would have liked a little bit more variation. Another thing is there's some puzzles in the game that I had to leave undone because I couldn't figure out exactly what they were doing. You're always able to move forward fairly easily, but there's these times where you can tell that there's something else being offered in the game. I think that adds a little bit of replayability, which is very cool, especially because this game is a blast. That brings us to fun factor. It is one of the most enjoyable platformers I've played in a long time. It Takes Two is more about the story getting you started and the gameplay just being front and center at every time. And I think there is the inevitable feeling, especially when you're playing it, that it's just sort of a reason for you to go through these things, is this mystical story of divorce, and it doesn't really feel necessarily pushy enough. But let's be honest, man, you're damn dolls. That's sort of like saying farts are just ghost poop. It's many levels more intriguing than that. It's incredible fun through and through for the control and for the different things that it offers you. All of those actions, and delivers it to you from start to finish. One of the most fun games I've played all year. So as you guys know, I rate games on a buy, wait for a sale, whatever. We're not even going to worry about that. It's a buy. It is one of the most enjoyable games. I had such a good time. I'll certainly play again to see if I am missing those leftover puzzles or if there's something there I wasn't quite understanding. I'm also going to play it again from the other side all the way through as the different character. I played for the most part as May, and I want to play some as Cody and switch that off moment to moment, start to finish. Phenomenal. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Hey, you can check out Patreon. As you guys know, embargoes have been completely ruinous this year. I've missed a couple. Not on me. I've had things planned and companies have just basically reset dates around it. So this one's a little bit late. I would love for you to maybe spread it around, post it in places you can. It really does help the channel because, well, that's the bread and butter of it. Peace out. Enjoy the rest of your week.